science just crossed a line that once belonged to dystopian novels. Babies born with DNA from 3 different people. But here's the real dilemma. Should we cheer the breakthrough, or pause and ask what it means for human dignity, family, and the moral architecture that holds society together? And this is the part most people miss. The goal wasn't to make 3-parent children at all. Let's unpack what actually happened, in plain language. Researchers in the United Kingdom recently reported the births of 8 babies conceived, using a method intended to prevent devastating mitochondrial diseases. In simple terms, a child's main genetic instructions, the nuclear DNA, still come from a mother and a father. But the tiny power plants inside the cell, called mitochondria, come from a donor. To do this, doctors take the fertilized egg from the parents, remove its nuclear DNA, and insert that DNA into a donor egg, whose own nuclear DNA has been removed, but whose mitochondria are healthy. The result: a child with nuclear DNA from 2 parents and mitochondrial DNA from a 3rd woman. Even if the donor's contribution is less than 1% of the total DNA, it's still a genuine genetic input. That's why terms like polyparental hybrid are now entering public discussion. Why go to such lengths? Mitochondrial disorders can be severe, even fatal. If a mother carries faulty mitochondrial DNA, every child she conceives naturally could be at risk. Mitochondrial donation is meant to break that chain of transmission, a compassionate goal by any standard. Think of it as a highly specialized genetic shell game. You keep the parent's essential blueprint, but swap out the faulty cellular batteries for healthy ones. But here's where it gets controversial. Ethical questions multiply the moment we move reproduction from the home to the laboratory. In Christian moral thinking, and in many broader moral traditions, the ends don't automatically justify the means. The principle of double effect, a classic tool in Christian ethics, says there are times when we can accept unintended harms if a proportionate good is achieved and no direct evil is willed. Preventing serious disease sounds like a powerful good. Yet we must still ask, what lines do we cross along the way? What trade-offs are we willing to accept? And could the same tools, once normalized, be used for aims we would later regret? A central concern is the status of the embryo. When embryos become objects of manipulation and testing rather than persons with inherent worth, we risk slipping into a mindset where human life is measured by utility and outcomes. Even if technicians handle embryos with care, the framework treats early human life as adjustable material. That shift, from child as gift to child as project, may seem subtle now, but can have sweeping cultural consequences. There's also a deeper question of creation order and purpose. In the biblical vision, echoed by natural law reasoning, procreation is more than combining genetic material. It is the outgrowth of a one-flesh, exclusive union between husband and wife. Within that moral framework, introducing a third party's genetic contribution, however small, challenges the unity of parenthood. It raises questions not only about technique, but about identity, belonging, and the meaning of mother and father. Will children conceived this way one day wonder how to understand their relationship to the donor? Is it fair to ask them to shoulder the uncertainties that our technological ingenuity creates? And this is the part most people miss. Once a society permits third-party genetic contributions for medical reasons, it becomes harder to draw firm lines against other genetic interventions. If we accept swapping faulty mitochondria for healthy ones, what about correcting other genes? What about enhancing traits, height, cognition, athletic ability, when we can? Are we drifting from mercy toward mastery, from healing toward human design? Where does responsible care end and perfectionism begin? Several additional concerns deserve attention. The embryo, a nascent human being, risks becoming an experimental subject rather than a person with inviolable dignity. Our cultural tolerance for imperfection, once a mark of humility, is giving way to a drive for control and optimization. Safety and long-term effects remain uncertain. Rapid adoption can outpace sober ethical review and thorough risk assessment. Normalizing this approach may serve as a gateway to broader genetic selection, edging us toward designer babies. From a Christian perspective, the moral boundary is clear. Children are meant to arise from the embodied, exclusive love of a husband and wife. Procreation is relational before it is technical. When we turn reproduction into quality control, assembling parts in a lab, we risk reimagining children as products to be managed rather than persons to be welcomed. Even well-meant compassion can slide into a technocratic mindset where the metrics of success overshadow the meaning of family. That doesn't mean Christians should be hostile to science or indifferent to suffering. Quite the opposite. It means we must speak with clarity and courage, honoring the dignity of every child, protecting the integrity of the family, and respecting the moral contours of creation. We should support ethical research, care deeply for those with genetic illnesses, and pursue treatments that heal without undermining the moral fabric of procreation. And we should examine our own inconsistencies, such as casual acceptance of in vitro fertilization practices that also separate procreation from the marital act, lest today's silence become tomorrow's complicity. But here's where debate will be fiercest. If a procedure reduces suffering without directly intending harm, isn't that enough? Or does even a small genetic contribution from a third party fundamentally alter the meaning of parenthood? Should we accept limited technological interventions narrowly focused on healing, or draw a bright line at any third-party genetic input to human reproduction? Your turn. Do you think preventing mitochondrial disease justifies using donor DNA? Or does it cross a moral boundary that safeguards the unity of the family? Where would you draw the line, and why?